Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating, highly complex legal dispute that cuts right to the core of how we understand information, truth, and the law. We're going to be looking at the case of Dr. Chen Jingyuan. He's a scholar who actually faced criminal charges just for forwarding social media posts. The charge? Picking quarrels and provoking trouble by allegedly spreading rumors. The sources we're looking at today detail exactly how his defense strategy completely deconstructed the very concept of what a rumor actually is, breaking it down piece by piece. It's a real puzzle, so let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually constitutes a rumor in the strict eyes of the law? I mean, when we use the word rumor in our everyday lives, we might just mean gossip, or maybe an opinion we strongly disagree with, or even just a bad prediction. But the legal system, it requires extremely precise definitions. To actually convict someone of a crime for spreading false information, the court first has to prove that the information itself falls into a category that can legally be classified as false. To figure out how this works, we're going to explore 5 key areas. First, the boundary of rumors. Second, art and subjective emotions. Third, theories and academic opinions. Fourth, verifying facts and history. And finally, the burden of proof. All right, starting with Section 1, the boundary of rumors, defining false information. Before we can even look at the evidence against Dr. Chen, we've got to establish what the law actually regulates here. According to the legal statutes and judicial interpretations referenced in our sources, false information isn't just anything that happens to be incorrect. It is strictly defined as an objective, verifiable fact that can be proven true or false through investigation. The absolute, undeniable keyword here is falsifiability. If a statement can't be measured against objective reality and proven false, it literally cannot legally be considered a rumor. It has to be a solid claim about a tangible event, like stating there is a fire at the bank. But wait, this creates a fundamental legal puzzle, which the defense was quick to point out. What if the post isn't a fact to begin with? What actually happens when subjective expressions, things that exist entirely in the human mind or heart, are treated by the legal system as if they were cold, hard, objective facts? Which brings us to Section 2, art and subjective emotions. Basically, the realm of feelings. In his defense, Dr. Chen's team meticulously categorized all the evidence brought against him. And interestingly, the first 2 categories of his forwarded posts consisted entirely of artworks and subjective emotions. This highlights a really core philosophical distinction. A fact statement is objective and falsifiable. On the flip side, an interpretive statement or a value judgment is subjective and aesthetic. So Dr. Chen's defense essentially argued that the judicial system was taking entirely subjective items and mistakenly treating them as objective facts. The sources actually outline some specific examples of the posts Dr. Chen forwarded that fall into these first 2 categories. They included images like the Hong Kong Umbrella Girl comic, a memorial image featuring a candle, a post expressing a sigh of frustration over Huawei facing international bans, and just some general complaints about autocratic governance. The defense pointed out that these are symbolic, aesthetic, or emotional expressions. They are absolutely not objective facts describing a specific event. According to the analysis in our sources, asking if a cartoon or a feeling of frustration is true or false is a logical fallacy known in philosophy as a category mistake. Think about it. You can't ask how much a song weighs, right? In that same vein, you can't ask if a political cartoon is factually false. Because they completely lack a true or false metric, the defense argued they are entirely exempt from being classified as rumors. Let's move to Section 3, theories and academic opinions. The space for debate. This third category of posts involved rational knowledge, political commentary, and academic theories. And honestly, here is where the analysis of the case reveals a rather surprising fact. According to the legal documents, simply browsing and saving academic theories on platforms like YouTube or Google was actually cited as evidence of spreading rumors. The defense fiercely contested this, arguing that reading and comparing academic theories is a purely cognitive activity. It's literally the fundamental process of research, not the execution of a crime. So the crucial point here is that scientific, economic, and political theories inherently lack a single absolute truth condition. They are specifically built to be debated, tested, and sometimes proven wrong over time. That is exactly how human knowledge advances. The source analysis points out that criminalizing theoretical arguments doesn't just misapply the law, it actively destroys the entire mechanism of knowledge production. If an unaccepted theory is automatically labeled a rumor, well, academic debate becomes pretty much impossible. Now for Section 4, Verifying Facts and History, the falsifiable realm. So when you look at how Dr. Chen structured his defense, he essentially mapped it out like this. Artworks, emotions, and theories, they simply do not have the property of being falsifiable. They cannot be proven true or false. This fourth category, facts and historical data, was the only one Dr. Chen acknowledged actually contained objective descriptions of reality. Only these can legally enter that realm of true or false verification. So, what did this fourth category actually look like in practice? The sources list a few specific historical and factual posts that Dr. Chen forwarded. These included a quote from a 1986 interview with Deng Xiaoping regarding his retirement, a historical anecdote about the editor of the Shenzhen Youth Daily, and a post displaying an alleged 49,000 RMB monthly pension slip of a former official. Now, these are specific claims about the real world, meaning, unlike a cartoon or a sigh of frustration, they actually can be investigated for accuracy. But here's the rub. Even for this falsifiable category, the defense raised a massive question about the boundary of responsibility. On one side, you have the citizen's burden. The defense argued that ordinary citizens simply do not have the resources, let alone the legal obligation, to conduct expert-level forensic fact-checking before they retweet a piece of historical data. On the other side, you have the state's burden. The state is the entity that possesses the authority, the manpower, and the resources to investigate, prove something false, and officially clarify rumors. Shifting that immense investigative burden onto the shoulders of an ordinary citizen, the defense argued, is completely legally unsupportable. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the burden of proof, the legal test. How does the legal system actually go about proving a crime occurred in a case exactly like this? Well, to secure a conviction for picking quarrels and provoking trouble via online posts, the prosecution has to prove 3 strict steps in sequence. First, the objective act. The information must be proven objectively false. Second, subjective intent. They must prove the user actually knew it was false when they forwarded it. And third, the consequences. The act must actively result in severe public disorder. You need all 3. And this requirement highlights a very, very important number: 100. The source documents note that Dr. Chen's account had fewer than 100 followers, and the posts he forwarded had near 0 retweets or engagement. So his defense strongly questioned, how on earth could the prosecution legally prove that step 3, that required consequence of severe public disorder, was actually met when these forwards essentially existed in a vacuum with virtually no audience? This really synthesizes the source's ultimate conclusion about this entire legal battle. The defense argued that by treating art, emotion, and academic theory as if they were falsifiable rumors, and by completely failing to prove intent and public disorder on the factual posts, the system was conflating entirely different categories of human expression. And the profound danger of doing that, it risks transforming the law from a tool that punishes harmful actions into a tool that literally punishes cognitive habits, reading choices, and thoughts. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a really profound philosophical question to chew on. In our increasingly complex, hyper-connected digital world, where exactly do we draw the line between regulating objective facts to protect the public and policing the subjective thoughts, emotions, and theories of individuals? It is a boundary that will undoubtedly define the very future of online governance. Thank you so much for exploring this incredibly intricate legal architecture with me today, and I will catch you in the next explainer.